And I keep forgetting I have the remote. So I'm working at the car dealership. Oh, thank you very much for coming in. This is Don with Adventures of the Broken Retired. There'll be more adventures when it cools off outside a little bit. If you would be so kind, please, if you find the content of the videos acceptable, please like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. It's like, share, and subscribe, and comment is the heartbeat of YouTube channel creators. It's greatly appreciated when you do those things by everybody with every channel that you watch. And don't forget to hit the notifications button so when new videos come out, you're aware and don't miss anything. All right, so I'm working at the dealership. It was a Dodge dealership. I'm working at the dealership. First of all, I got to go back. I got to step back. So I go through the interview process. I go through the going in for the interview and talking about them and settle out the money. And of course, that, like I said just a minute ago, the money thing was a bit underhanded, but it is what it is. So we say, okay, we'll be here 8 o'clock Monday morning or 7 o'clock Monday morning, whatever it was. And me, I am like Mr. Punctual. If you're not early, you're late. I don't like to be late. I will leave myself extra time, stupid time, in case I catch a flat, or around here in case there's traffic, because the traffic in Baton Rouge is very unpredictable. But, so I show up, and I got there like 5 minutes before the time I was supposed to be there. So I actually sat in my car and waited until it was 1 minute till. It was 1 minute before the time I was supposed to be there. And I walked into the service office 1 minute early, dead on time, is what I call it. And there's this room, they had another service writer there. And there's this kind of big room with a desk, not a desk, but a counter behind it. And there's this guy standing behind the counter, fumbling around through paperwork. And the service manager had told me that he was hiring 2 new people. He was going to hire me and somebody else to replace the 2 that he had. He didn't like the 2 that he had. So I walk in the door, and there's this guy standing behind the counter, kind of fumbling through paperwork. Excuse me, let me pause for a second. I'm going to clear my throat. I really much rather prefer do that off camera. Anyway, so I walk into the room, and there's this guy behind the counter fumbling through paperwork, and I figure he's the other new service writer. So I walk up to the guy, and he stands up and says, "Yes, can I help you?" And I stuck my hand out to shake hands and said, "Hey, I'm Don. I'm the other new service writer." And he said, "What?" And then from behind me, I hear the service manager calling to this service writer from behind the counter. He's calling him and say, "Come to my office." Now, the offices in here were all glass. So 2 offices, there was the service writer's office area, there was the warranty clerk's office area, and there was the service manager's office, but all clear glass. So I'm standing there showing up first day for the job, and the service manager fired the other service writer, the guy that I was replacing. He fired him with me standing there. And I can see through the glass into the service manager's office, and they're yelling at each other and pointing at me. And it's like, man, I ain't been here 5 minutes, and already it's going bad. It was horrible. That was a terrible place to work. Let me tell you what happened one time. So I'm at work, and I'm a service writer, right? And this guy pulls up. He's got a Dodge 150, Dodge D150 van. And he gets out, and I said, "Sir, can I help you?" And he says, "Yeah, he said, whatever his name is, I don't remember. It's not the important part." He says, "Yep." He says, "I'm here to get my van upgraded." And I said, "Well, what kind of upgrade did you want to do?" And he said, "Well, they delivered me, I bought a 250, a D250 van, but they delivered me a D150. They told me the only difference is the tires and the springs. So they told me that they would upgrade it for me." The sales department, the salesman, told him, he said, "Don't worry about it. We'll upgrade it for you. We'll give you a call when the parts come in, and you can just bring it in, and the service department will take care of it for you. And he said, I called over here Friday last week. They said that they had all the parts in and for me to bring it in Monday morning. Well, nobody in the service department knew anything about it. So I asked him for the paperwork showing, you get a WEO slip or whatever, and he didn't have any. No nothing. So I said, well, I'm going to have to check into this. So the first thing I do is go to the parts department and say, hey, I need the parts for this van. Excuse me. And they look at me like I'm crazy and say, we don't have anything for that guy. We don't have any of that stuff. Well, maybe it's under the stock number. Maybe it's no. They didn't have any of the stuff. They knew nothing about it. So next thing I have to do is go talk to the salesman. Well, of course, the salesman wasn't available. So I went to the sales manager and I said, hey, I got this guy out here in the service aisle with a D100 who said he got told to bring it in today to get it upgraded to a D250. And nobody knows anything about it. What do you want me to do? We got no parts to do it with. What do you want me to tell this guy? And the sales manager said to me, oh, that guy. Yeah, I talked to him Friday. I just told him what he wanted to hear. I said, well, what am I supposed to tell him? He said, yeah, I don't care. Just tell him anything you want. I said, tell him anything I want. He said, yeah, just go tell him anything you want. I don't care. So I did go back and tell him anything I wanted to. I said, I'm sorry, sir. We don't have parts for you. Parts department knows nothing about it. I've got no paperwork to indicate what's going on. You need to go talk to the sales manager. Well, about an hour later, I got my behind raked over to Kohl's big time for telling the customer to go to... What else was I supposed to do? We didn't have the stuff to fix it with. There's no paperwork even saying that we're going to do it. Who was going to pay for it? How was I going to bill it out? How was I going to write up the check? There's nothing else I could do. But boy, did I get raked over to Kohl's for that. When I tell you that let me tell you another story about that same place. Another story about the same place. I get a customer coming in. They bought a custom van. And the lady comes in and she says, hey, we bought a custom van about 3 months ago, and it blew a fuse over the weekend. And my husband went to change the fuse, and it's got those little flat fuses. And according to the owner's manual, there's a little tool that comes with the van. It's what they call it, a fuse tool. And that tool is made so you can use that to pull the fuses out, because they're hard to get out when they're that small. Let me clear my throat. I was absolutely, we'll talk about all the throat clearing one day. I was absolutely familiar with what she was talking about. I knew about the fuse tools. And so, and you can't get anything without a requisition. If you have somewhere to build it, you can't get anything. You can't get a fuse tool. You can't get nothing. And I want to go take one from another vehicle and stick it in there, because then I still have a vehicle that doesn't have one. So I'm in the same spot. So I went to the service manager's office and I said, hey, I got this lady outside. There's no fuse tool in her van. She wants one. How am I going to get one? And he commenced to laughing at me, talking about and he called a fuse tool, and how ridiculous it was that this lady didn't have her fuse tool. And he walked out into the service writer's area and said to the other service writer, hey, Don's looking for a fuse tool. Have you seen one? Big joke, right? So I go tell the lady, ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. She said, why not? And I said, well, according to my boss, the service manager, there's no such thing as a fuse tool or a fuse tool. They don't exist. According to him, they don't exist. Therefore, I cannot provide you with one. So she said, oh, okay. And she went out to the van and she got the owner's manual And she had it open to the page that showed how to replace a fuse. And she said, look right here. Go show that to your service manager so that he knows that there's a fuse tool and he knows that I really need one. So I did. I walked in his office and I put the owner's manual down on his desk and pointed to the fuse tool and said, that's what I need right there, one of those. Man, he lost it. He starts yelling at me for making a fool out of him. What are you doing making a fool out of me? I can't believe you're trying to do this, make me look bad. And it's like, make him look bad. He's the one who went out in the service writer's office and started laughing about me for a fuse tool that didn't exist. I'm just trying to help a customer who bought a vehicle. Hang on. That was a horrible experience. You know what? I've got to break this up again because I have another story. And I'm going to use this guy's name because his name was Jeppy. Hang on. Let's go to part 3. Thank you very much for being here with Donwise, with the Adventures of the Broke and Retired. Please, if you find the content worthy, like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notifications button so that you'll be aware when new videos come out. Hang on. Got the remote.